Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's view of the pet room is a different view, literally just an awful view, but also I'm wearing gloves because I'm going to be handling my White's tree frog, Durian. It's actually something I got to talk about with Durian, like a health update, and I also want to do a White's tree frog Q&A / like commonly asked questions because I have gone viral quite a few times, especially here on YouTube, but also on TikTok and Instagram. And I've had a lot of new followers. I've had a lot of people ask the same questions over and over again, and I would like to answer them in one place and point everyone to that place because I'm tired of answering the questions. Without further ado, let's introduce Durian. This ball of green chewed gum is my frog Durian. Durian is not the frog that has gone viral. He's actually gone viral. Well, I say he, but Durian's probably a she, but I just call all the frogs he because I don't know why I do that. But Durian's an extremely large frog, so likely a she, but okay, just keep scooting back. I only have a glove to cover my hand, so I'm not wearing a glove for my whole arm. This is Durian, like I said, and Durian recently was at the vet because they have a parasite. Well, not one parasite, but multiple parasites. Well, one type of parasite. And this is something that's not new for me. This is something I've dealt with my White's tree frogs since I got them in 2020, so 3 years now. And so we went to the vet recently because Durian had dead worms pulled out of their legs. Yes, you did, didn't you? You had dead worms pulled out of your legs. And I will include a photo right here on the screen of what that looked like, what the dead worms looked like. And there are actually still probably some in there because we could not get all of them out. But the TLDR of this is basically, Durian is likely wild caught. Durian was purchased at a pet store by someone and then rehomed to someone else, and then that person cohabbed Durian with 3 other frogs who you know as Berry, Kiwi, and Coco, and then all 4 of those frogs were rehomed to me in 2020. In Durian's previous home, Durian had a bacterial infection that was treated. Durian had some weird swelling in their legs, which you can kind of see here. This leg still has quite a bit of it compared to this leg, but had swelling or fluid retention, also called edema. And the other vet said it's probably a reaction to the antibiotics, which I told my vet when I got Durian. I think we did x-rays and we did a fecal and we did a general exam. My vet had like a few ideas of what it could be, couldn't see anything in the x-ray. It did come back that Durian had parasites, and I wasn't surprised because Coco was having symptoms of parasites. The parasites were treated in all 4 frogs. They are a leg burrowing parasite, or a parasite that lives in the legs, and they are there forever, pretty much. Like, you can kill them and the body will excrete them, but in Durian's case, the body did not excrete them, which is why the vet had to take them out, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But essentially, this parasite is something that Durian probably had all their life and then gave to the other frogs when they became cohabbed. And then because I moved them from a quarantine setup to a bioactive, I was able to, unfortunately, allow these parasites to flourish. Now you might ask yourself, Jessica, why did you move them to a bioactive? I didn't know they had parasites. And again, Coco's fecal came back negative for parasites. Durian's is the only one that had positive for parasites. So it's just really a confusing situation and definitely a learning lesson on my end because I had to break down their bioactive and move them into something that they're in currently. I will include a link to that on the screen up here for anyone curious what their husbandry looks like. That video is the most up-to-date one that I have. But they have to have an enclosure that can get cleaned pretty regularly. Instead of having like a cool water section like a lot of my other species have, they have to have water dishes. They have to be able to be cleaned regularly. The substrate has to be able to be thrown away regularly. So I've made some husbandry changes based on what the frogs need, even if it's not like what I'd want. But Durian's legs, the fluid had kind of always been there, and over time has gotten more, so I went to the vet particularly recently because one leg was bigger than the other, and I was like, interesting. Because my vet's original theory were a couple different things. Parasites was one of them, which is why we treated for parasites. Another one was, given how big Durian is and we don't know the age of this frog, we thought perhaps it was some sort of edema from like an organ failure, but that would, have resulted in their death a long time ago, and they've been around for 3 years now, so probably not that. And we had just some other ideas like infection, but that obviously wasn't the case. So we didn't know exactly that it was parasites until we were able to see their dead bodies in the fluid, which again, I'll put that picture back on the screen for those curious. But so that's what is up with Durian. Recently, Durian went to the vet to have worms pulled out of his legs, or her legs, their legs, the legs. My vet took a small, like, syringe. I don't think I got that on camera. Are you gonna do it again? I'm hot. Durian just pissed all over everything. It's on my hands, it's on my journal, it's... Okay, well, that was really fun and unexpected. Thank you for that, Durian. I don't even think I got it on camera. I think I was holding them too low, which really upsets me because that would have been hilarious to get on camera. Would love to put that on TikTok and go viral. It's all over the ring light. Oh my god. You done? Any more in there? Might as well get it on camera. Get it all out now while I have the towel here. Anyways, Durian just decided to projectile piss across this area. Also, if you're wondering why they're still in the pet room, these parasites can't be given to the other animals. So it's just something that's in the white tree frogs. And they have their own set of tongs. They have their own everything. Like, nothing touches the other animals. It's just the enclosure that's in the room. Hasn't been an issue for 3 years. It's just these frogs that have them. So anyway, the vet took a syringe and pulled the fluid and the dead parasites out of Durian's body. Still some fluid in the legs, and in particular this one over here. And so we'll have to go back again in the future to have more pulled out. But that is just an update I wanted to give about Durian. I will include on the screen, of course, like the video where I talk about the original health issues I had with him back in 2020 and how my vet and I treated it. And now I can go on to the Q&A section, which I will keep Durian out for just so that, I don't know, they can hang out. The purpose of this filming time is because I'm cleaning their quarantine bin. Because after Durian had 2 little, lacerations made in their leg to drain the dead parasites and the fluid, we want to keep him in a quarantine bin for a week just to make sure that the injuries heal up nicely, and so he's currently on paper towel that gets cleaned every day. So, answering your commonly asked questions about my white tree frogs. Number 1, why do they bite? That is a question I get a lot. So I've only ever had a couple of bite videos with Durian. The other ones have been with Kiwi and with Coco, and not Coco, Kiwi and Berry. And only on rare occasions do Coco and Durian have a lack of brain cells that Kiwi and Berry have. But why do they bite? They bite because they think I'm food. That's the only reason. It's not because, like, they're aggressive, and it's not because I'm, like, taunting them or putting my finger in their face. It's literally just I have the insect to feed them on tongs, and they just go for my fingers instead. Or sometimes I'll be done feeding them, and they want more food because they have really voracious appetites. And so I will, like, be changing their water, and they'll just, like, jump down at me to bite my finger. Anytime I approach the enclosure, I have to be prepared to feed them. Like, anytime, or else they will jump for me. In fact, feeding all 4 frogs at once, they will, like, jump straight to the front of the enclosure and try to get me if I'm not fast enough to feed them. And alternatively, they will also try to get each other because any movement to them is food. Fortunately, Durian and Coco, like I said, do not lack as many brain cells as Kiwi and Berry. So, like, I can hold Durian and move my hand here, but if I had Kiwi or Berry out, they'd be on the finger for sure. Another question I get is, are they being aggressive? Like I said, no, they don't really have aggressive tendencies. They're just kind of like, my vet called them the first time that she met my white tree frogs. She said white tree frogs are stomachs with mouths. Like, there's no other motive, there's no other feeling for them. It's just mouth and stomach, like hole for food and place where food gets digested. Like, food is their primary motive in life. People have asked, how do they survive in the wild? Good question. I don't know. Fortunately, like a lot of frogs, they have tons and tons of tadpoles, and I think that's the reason they have so many offspring, because like they kind of dumb, you know. Sorry to say. Yeah, they're just not the brightest, and also you know, pretty easily predated on. So I have seen videos of white tree frogs in the wild, and they do look just as dumb in captivity. However, I do have to reiterate that berry and kiwi are like a special kind of dumb that I haven't seen all white tree frogs exhibit. Like again, durian and cocoa are not as dumb as them. I also got a lot of people telling me that I need to feed my frogs more because clearly I'm starving them and that's why they're trying to eat my finger. I'm not starving them. Like, as you can see, this frog is not skinny. You know, it's a big frog, a big boy. They eat multiple times a week. I'd say probably like twice a week. They get tuberoaches, superworms, earthworms, the occasional waxworms and hornworms. You know, they have a varied diet. They eat, like I said, twice a week. It's not a matter of them like, sorry, I keep having my hand down. It's just a weird place to hold it. But it's not a matter of like not feeding them enough or them being too hungry. It's just that like they don't understand to stop eating. They just have the urge to consume and eat everything in sight. Especially if I were to continue offering them food, they'd continue taking it until the point that they like died or were sick. Like, that's just how frogs are, and that's how a lot of animals are, to be honest. If you feed them, they'll just keep going. So yeah, I'm not starving them, or they're not eating me because they're hungry. They're just eating me because they want food. Like, a lot of the clips where you've seen them bite me, they've already eaten. They just want more, or they're in the process of eating. Now, I get a lot of people asking me, do the bites hurt? The bites don't hurt. The bites hurt the most from this frog because this frog is the biggest. But no, they don't hurt by any means. They just feel like a sticky pinch. Like I can feel the rim of their mouth against my finger, and that's like the only part where it's like pressure. The rest is just like sticky, gooey tongue. So I just say whenever someone asks me what it feels like or if it hurts, no, it doesn't hurt. It feels like a sticky pinch. Like, it's not like they're gonna leave like any abrasions or any wounds or anything. If they were to like bite each other, sometimes they can leave little markings because their skin is so delicate, which is why we have to wear gloves, which I'll get to in a bit. But no, in general, like, they're not leaving any scratches or scrapes on me and it doesn't hurt. What does it feel like? Like I said, it feels like a sticky pinch. It doesn't hurt, and it's just like a weird gooey feeling. People have asked, does it hurt the frogs to have like my finger in their mouth? Or like in the situations of like Kiwi specifically, Kiwi really likes to pull my finger into their mouth, and they go like really far, like up to my knuckle, which is like their whole body. So people are asking like, how does that not kill them? How does that not hurt them? I actually don't really have an answer for this other than it just doesn't. Like, I certainly don't make it more complicated. Like, I'm not moving my fingers around. I'm not like, you know, purposely pushing my finger in further. However they grab onto it, I don't like wiggle my finger. I just wait and then like pull them off with my other hand. And I don't even pull when they're like doing a chomp down. I wait till they like open their mouth again so I can just pull quickly out. So there's like nothing on there that's gonna hurt them. I imagine if you had like long fake nails or something, that could be a problem. But no, I don't think it hurts them. They've never had an issue with it. And it's certainly not something I encourage, which we'll get to. People ask, why don't I stop them? It's not that I plan for it to happen. So whenever they do jump on me to bite me, it's normally when I'm in the process of feeding them, and I just am feeding them with tongs. And sometimes they'll jump at me, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they jump and I'll move myself out of the way so they land on like the edge of the door, or instead of landing on my hand, because I can see them coming for me, like I'll move and they'll get my wrist instead. And because it's not a finger, they just let go quickly because there's nothing to grab onto. So in those instances, I'm successful. But in other times, they do get my finger, and if I'm not quick enough, then, you know, they just have it. And at that point, it's like, well, this is funny. I'm definitely going to record a video because they already have me. Like, they've already succeeded. And I would say that this happens, I would say probably every other feeding where they're able to actually get me, maybe every second feeding. But I would say they probably make an attempt almost every feeding. Some feedings I'm able to get to them quick enough, and they're like far enough in the enclosure, or like they're right on the front of the door, so they feel like they're close enough to me where it's not an issue. But yeah, sometimes they just grab me. And it's not like I'm trying to coax them to do it. A lot of comments have been like, oh, this girl, she just puts her fingers in front of her frogs for them to grab. That's why she wants to go viral so often. I would be going viral way more if I was doing that, to be honest. I'm simply not. There's no way I can prove that to you. If I felt like that was an ethical thing to do, I would do it more often, because who doesn't like having online success? Like, this is my job. I make money off of the videos that go viral. So like, of course, that makes sense to do it that way. But there's a lot of content that I don't make just because it feels wrong to do so. Like, for example, there's like been trends and things where, sorry, I just want Durian to face you. There's been trends where like I could easily have posted like a video of my leopard geckos who have Enigma syndrome, like doing a spin or a twirl. And like, it would probably go viral because people don't understand what's happening and they might think it's like cute or funny, but that feels irresponsible to me, so I haven't done it. And that's just an example, and I'm not saying that if someone does do that they're irresponsible. It's a hard line to walk, posting animal content online, and it's something that I've done for almost a decade now. So it's like really hard to figure out how to have a successful platform and be able to have enough eyes on you to spread positive information and education, while also being able to get those eyes on you in the first place, because like, educational content does not go viral. Clearly, I've been at this for so long, and my YouTube following has doubled just because of some frog videos. So I guess it just comes down to trust. Like, you just have to trust that that's not what I do. One concern people have had is that like, oh, I'm posting these videos so often, so I must be doing that. No, it just feels often to people on YouTube because I've had a backlog of shorts. So I knew that YouTube was going to be making shorts more monetizable coming February, because as a YouTube creator, that's information I need to be aware of. And so I have been saving the videos that I've posted every single day on TikTok and Instagram for short form content, reels and TikToks, to then have them on shorts. And so I just have a backlog of frog videos. Like, a lot of the ones that are going viral, first of all, I posted a whole month ago, and they're actually from longer ago than that because they're from Instagram and TikTok where I originally posted them. So it seems like it happens often, or that I'm posting them often. It's not. That's just not the case. I just have a backlog of them. In fact, I still have like 3 or 4 frog videos to post on YouTube at this time. I think maybe more than that. So yeah, it's just that I have enough from like the last however many months. My favorite question is, why don't I wear gloves? It's my favorite question because 1, I get it a lot, so there's a little bit of sarcasm to that, and 2, because it's a very good question. Why in those videos am I not wearing gloves? And people have said it's been very harmful that I post that because it makes people think you can handle your frogs without gloves. I think that there's some validity to that, so I'm not going to say that you're wrong for feeling that way. As you can see here, I am wearing gloves. Any prolonged contact I have with the frogs is with gloves on, but I don't ever handle the frogs. The only time I've handled Durian recently is to clean out the quarantine bin and take Durian to the vet. Other than that, I haven't handled Durian in a long time. Probably a couple months since I last gave them parasite medications. So I just don't handle the frogs. I don't think it's beneficial for them to be out of their enclosure for very long. I don't think it's beneficial for them to be handled for very long. Me personally, like a lot of my animals, I don't really handle unless they enjoy it. Like my dog Jackson, for example, he enjoys being handled. He's not a reptile, but you know what I'm saying. But like bearded dragons, for example, they enjoyed being out, so I worked with them, I handled them. But like, there's a lot of animals that just don't appreciate being handled. Red-eyed crocodile skink, a lot of my crested geckos don't appreciate it. White tree frogs don't seem to care either way, but because their skin is so sensitive, I don't like the risk. So I don't ever really handle them. I handle them for like health checks, or like, you know, like I said, having to bring them to the vet and things like that. And then my vet also handles them with gloves. So it's just not something that I do regularly. So when you're seeing it in video, especially because there's been a lot of those videos recently, it can seem like, oh, she's always handling her frogs with her hands. I pretty much never handle them. And when I feed them, the goal is not to handle them. The goal is just to feed them. Sometimes the frogs jump at me and I'm able to avoid them. Sometimes they jump at me and they catch on to me. Now you might be wondering, why don't you just wear gloves when you feed them? I would, my concern being that I have seen these gloves rip. Like, they have ripped just when I've been sifting substrate or cleaning an enclosure, because they rip at the fingertips, you know, like right around here they rip, or right at the top of your finger. And I am afraid that if one of the frogs were to grab onto my finger and they just got me at the right angle that they could tear this and swallow a piece of it. And that is not worth the risk to me, considering getting anything out of their mouths once it's in there is a hard time. I have seen these frogs swallow all kinds of things, not mine personally, but these frogs in general. I've seen them pass paper towel, moss, dirt, all kinds of things. Anything you keep them on or with is at risk for being eaten, and the idea of them swallowing a plastic glove, or not plastic, but a nitrile glove, is that a form of plastic? Rubber? I don't know. Them swallowing this material horrifies me, and I would rather run the risk of me having clean, washed hands, and I don't use soap that has fragrances or parabens or sulfates or anything like that. It's an all-natural soap. It doesn't have scent. I use that to remove any like dirt, oil, whatever on my hands. I rinse it off with the house water, which is dechlorinated, and then I interact with them in their enclosure only to feed them. Again, I wear gloves when whenever I'm going to do something like this or clean the enclosure. But when it comes time to feeding them, the risk, in my opinion, of potentially giving them something on their skin, which has never happened before in the 3 years that I've had them, while I'm like briefly removing them from my hand, is not as risky as if they were to jump down and bite onto the glove and rip a piece off and swallow it, that they'd be able to, look, there's Amy, that they'd be able to pass it and survive that. So I take a measured risk. Sometimes you have to do that when you have animals, and that's just what it is. I do not recommend long-term handling of your frog with or without gloves. If you're going to be handling your frogs, please use these gloves. Do not use cloth gloves, and do not use gloves that have been powdered. A lot of like gloves that you grab out of a box sometimes will have powder on them so they don't stick together. You don't want that because their skin will absorb that. It's very bad for them. So make sure it's just like a regular kind of like surgical nitrile glove. Next question. Where'd you get them from? They were, like I said earlier, they were rehomed to me as a group in 2020. That's my dog Jackson. He's got a big boy bark. Anyways, they were rehomed to me in 2020 from a friend who was no longer interested in keeping them. A friend in the community, like someone who also keeps reptiles. It's the same person that I actually got Oberon from. And they were no longer able to take care of the frogs and asked if I would take them. I had wanted white tree frogs for years at this point, because I am the kind of person that would rather wait for a rehoming situation to come around than go around and get them myself, like from a breeder. And so I waited years to have them, and then I ended up with these, 4 cute chewed balls of gum that have parasites and were a very big, very expensive headache for the first, 7 months of having them. You recommend them as pets. I don't know why I did a little jig when I said that. Yes and no. Like, they're not the easiest frog species to keep, and they kind of have a lot more requirements than a lot of people let on. Like, for example, a lot of people will keep them in like an 18-18-24 Exoterra, which I think is not just an Exoterra, but any 18 by 18 by 24 enclosure. I think that is horrifically small for them. Like, I can only speak for my frogs, right? But they move around so much, and they are so active, and they do well kept in a little group. So like, if you're keeping multiple frogs in that small of a space, like, it's too small in my opinion. They definitely need more than that. And so I don't recommend this frog if you're looking for something small and relatively low maintenance. I wouldn't say they're high maintenance, but just given the fact that so many people have had issues with them health-wise, including myself, and I was plenty researched getting them. It wasn't an issue with their husbandry. It was an issue with the fact that they just have parasites that will never go away. So yeah, they can be a handful. They can be a handful. He is a handful. They're great. So if you really want a frog and you're willing to take some like expensive choices and some big spacing and like a risk of potentially having a frog that's gonna cost you some money at the exotic vet, I think okay. But be very aware to do tons of research, because everybody I've seen keeps these frogs differently. Not a single person I've come across has the exact same care for their white tree frogs. It's something that I realized like really early on into researching them. I would follow a bunch of people who had white tree frogs. I would look at forums. I would look at photos and videos of how people kept them. I would read people's information. everybody keeps them differently. Every single person. Some people keep them in like a polydarium setup. Some people keep them in more of like a long enclosure that's also tall. Some people just keep them in vertical, skinny enclosures. Some people keep them in single enclosures, like only one frog. Some people keep them in large groups. There's so many different ways people keep them. Some people keep them with moss or substrate. Some people keep them with live plants, bioactive. Some people keep them on towel or paper towel or like that like frog foam, like that meshy, squishy foam. Like there's so many ways. Some people keep them with a naturalistic decor. Some people keep them with like cutesy plastic stuff. Like I'm telling you, everybody does it differently. Everybody. So there's like some things that are like, yeah, you need to have these like UVB, but like just given the fact that everyone does it so differently, it can be hard to know what you're getting into. So for that reason, I say extensive research. And along those lines, people ask me about my personal care and for a care guide. I have not had the time to sit down and film a long care guide because that's what I do. I don't do short form care content. I do like 2-hour care content, and that comes out to like 3 hours of filming plus many hours of scripting behind the scenes, many hours of editing after that. I haven't had the time to just sit down and do something like this in a while. It's unrealistic to expect that to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. I'm actually in the middle of like preparing to move. Like this summer I'll be moving states. Like I'll be moving another state over. I'm not going to be staying local, and I have to prepare the reptile room to be ready for all the reptiles, and so there's so much that has to be done, and I'm not ready to talk about it all yet, but I just don't have the time to film care content or any sort of like long form videos. Hopefully when all that is said and done, I can do that towards the end of the year, but for the time being, I will not be giving out like long form care content about these guys. I could give you a very brief like, you know, oh, I do this and that and this, but I don't think that's extensive enough. You can go ahead and watch some of my like feeding videos or my enclosure tour videos to see how I have them set up and things like that, but otherwise I recommend doing tons of research outside of that. But anyways, that is this video. You want to say bye, Durian? We're gonna go clean your quarantine bin, put you back down. Say bye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by leaving a like and a comment. Also, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like for Durian. Okay, what a class act. Give him a round of applause. Is that good? No thoughts, head empty. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.